So thank you very much for joining my talk here today. My last name is Henschelchen. We pronounced it yesterday, the half evening. It is not so easy. When I was in China last time, they called me just Mr. Chen after trying it half a day. So here I am. I'm Werner. I'm the CEO of GASQ. So we are a global exam provider certifying people in more than 100 countries in the world. And Poland is one of them. So it's my 10th test virus. So I've been through whole Poland, and it's a big pleasure to have so many people here now in my speech. I think I've seen from the sea to Wrocław to Warsaw to Zakopane, everything, and now it's my first time in Whistler, so it's great to be here. I'm talking to you about AI-driven learning, and as an exam provider, we are dealing with examination, certification, and learning every day. And in fact, I'm in that business since more than 20 years, as Natalia already said. And the point of AI changed the whole thing drastically. And I would like to go through our usage journey of AI in 3 examples so that you see how the changes happen and what the next steps are in our opinion. So I'd like to start with the practical tester that is add-on to the ISTQB, which is fully based on AI, and that was the start of our AI journey, in fact. And then move to our newest solution, that's the ISTQB Prep, and end up with the ISTQB Gen AI syllabus. That is the newest syllabus of ISTQB. I think you've heard about this morning, and I think it's also one of the most trending syllabi at the moment. In fact, the practical tester, it started from a point that we as an exam provider, we as a certification organization always need to understand what are your needs, and we need to think beyond. That is very important because we need to understand what are the trends of the future. So some of my work is always to talk with you guys, to meet you at the booth, to understand what are you really needing. And in the testing field, we have ISTQB as a de facto standard now since 25 years. It's a big thing. It's the standard in the field. But when you look at it, it has some things which are, let's say, very static. The multiple choice part with, let's say, 1 question and 4 answers. And this traditional way of learning, which is very much based on knowledge. So that is something which we already identified 10 years ago, 15 years ago in ISTQB as a topic. The problem, nevertheless, what is the solution on it? And the solution is that you try to be more essay style. ISTQB tried that with the old expert level, and it was a very hard one. Why? Because to ensure that all over the world the same standards are used to mark exams is quite difficult. And that was a problem which led to several issues. First, the time to really mark the exams is quite long when you have an expert doing that by hand. Second, to compare, let's say, Latin America with Europe, with Asia was quite difficult because the outcomes were difficult and different. And that was an issue which stopped us in many cases to really look into practical. Nevertheless, we always worked on that and thought about it. And we also asked the market in 2021, and we asked 250 test managers, testers, and training providers, and we came again to one interesting result. This was the result. Anyone told us we need more practice, we need more practical. Well, and that was the recurring theme, so we looked into it more deep, and then ChatGPT came out. For us, very interesting, because we immediately said, well, that is great, that is now the solution. And we put our ISTQB exam in there and answer it, and we failed. So the first time we tried it, it was around 30%, which is in the range of guessing. And the problem is when you repeat it, the answers were not getting better. So for us, that was, let's say, the first point where we said, oh, difficult. But then we put in a big group of universities and AI experts to think about that topic. And we came to the solution that it might make sense to train a large language model and really put all the testing knowledge in it. And that was a project we started 3 years ago. So we took experts, we took the ISTQB experts who are the leaders in the testing field, we took AI experts, and we took universities together to understand how can we create a large language model which has a robust system so that when you give an answer, it's not changing anymore. That when you want to get a score, that you're getting the same score again and again. And the result is this new form of assessment, which is called the practical tester. And I would like to show that to you in live in a short second. So what is it? It consists of two things. It's a learning tool and it's the exam itself. So it's an add-on to the ISTQB foundation level. And we just asked the test managers, the training providers, what do you think is really important for a tester who's starting? And they exactly told us 9 different things. 7 of them are in ISTQB, like black box, like test estimation, but they also added always a new tester should understand what a defect report is, and a new tester should understand what a test plan is. And that is part of the practical tester. What is now this interactive learning tool? This interactive learning tool gives you the possibility to come back to the idea of essay questions. So you have a question, you can give an answer in written format. And that is something new because that was never really working before. Besides, you had an expert who was really marking it. And also the content which we have in our AI is curated from experts. It is not changed by the answers given. That is a very important point. When you try ChatGPT and you try it 5 times, at one stage, when you ask them, are you sure? It will answer, well, perhaps I'm not right. And that is something what is changed here. So it is sure that the answer which is given stays consistent all over the time. So when you look at it, you see it's like a question in a multiple choice exam, but you give your answer in a written format. So if you don't give an answer, you are not receiving a score. And the interesting thing for every person is now you're receiving in this learning tool an immediate feedback. So you have a response which is showing you this is the answer you've given, and this is the recommendation how to become better. So you don't need a trainer anymore who is telling you this is wrong what you did. You get an immediate feedback 24/7 now immediately. And that is with the score topic also an important thing. You get a score which stays same. So when you give the same answer, you're not changing the score over time, it stays same. And you can also have a score of 50%, 60%. So that has all been curated from experts. And the result is that you have all over the world the same standard in the way you do these essay forms. That was an important part for us because we created a big engine around, and these are the topics which are in there. Test planning, you can also write a whole test plan. The AI is checking that you're doing it correct, and you get an immediate feedback what you need to do better when you do that. And I think that is, from the learning experience, a very important thing. Same for defect report, a topic which is somewhere in ISTQB, but not in the foundation level. So that is something which is now also added as an add-on in this practical tester. The exam is very similar. So you have 60 minutes and you have only 15 questions because, of course, with a bigger, longer question and a longer time to answer, you need less questions. It's available in these languages, and it's also available via the SJSI here in Poland. There's a lot of benefits for training providers. You can find out more when you're a training provider here. The slides will be available afterwards. And this is the ISTQB boards who are all supporting it. So it's a commonly used tool now, a commonly used add-on all around the world. That is a first step, because that was the first time we really came into connection with AI, and we tried to use it. And it is quite interesting because the people who use the practical tester, they have a very interesting and good experience as they suddenly have a tool which they can use all the time. And they have an expert which is answering them all the time. And that is a new way of learning, in fact. But we also sat then down and looked what is the major question we are receiving as GSQ. And that is why we said, okay, the future doesn't stop with practical tester. The biggest question we are receiving is this question, which we received more than 1,000 times last year. Where can I find more sample exams? That is something which is a typical ISTQB question, because you might know there's in some of the ISTQB modules only one sample exam. So we were sitting down and discussing with the experts, can we also use this engine to create perhaps sample exams? And the result we created is the ISTQB prep, because we wanted to go against all these low quality solutions on the market, which is ISTQB Guru and whatever, where we get then the complaints from the customer afterwards and say, well, I passed every exam with ISTQB Guru, but the result is not really good of my real exam. It has nothing to do. We wanted to give a high quality exam preparation here. And the result is this based on the ISTQB prep, based on the ISTQB engine. And I'll just show you a little bit through how it works, because that is also showing how this idea of preparation is now changed with AI, due to the fact that the AI engine is creating you new exams with every attempt you do. So meaning you have an unlimited amount of exams. The question of can I get more exam questions has been now answered with AI. So when you look here, for example, you have ISTQB Foundation or ISTQB Gen AI, you can choose between an exam mode and a practice mode. The practice mode leads you through the different chapters of the syllabus, and the exam mode is like a real exam, like you have seen in ISTQB. So you have 40 questions, you have 60 minutes, and you can go and click through the exam questions. And that is like in a real exam mode. So you go through and you always get new questions with every attempt. That is something which wasn't there before, and which is possible only through AI, because if we would put people to write you an more or less unlimited amount, it will cost a huge amount of money. AI is now making that much, much cheaper. And in the tool which you see here, you can now go through and have an immediate result directly when you are ending the test. That is also something in a training, you had to go back to the trainer, he was perhaps marking it, you was able to discuss then each and every question. Here you see now, well, surprisingly I failed, but you see I answered some of the questions. I can go through and I see this is the question, this is the correct answer, and this is the explanation. And what has also been added in here is the possibility to have an AI feedback. So the AI is now telling you what is your strength, what is your weaknesses, and what is the recommendation, what you should learn more. So it is like a trainer in the system, which is helping you on a 24/7 possibility. So I think that is changing also the way you learn, because you can do that now everywhere immediately with a very low cost. You have also these performance possibilities, and I think that is important when you're preparing for the exam, because it shows your trends. And you can afterwards identify, okay, I might have issues in the field of test management, so I need to learn more on there. I can just practice these chapters, and then I can prepare perfectly for the exam, and I know when I'm ready to run the exam. And that is the other thing, you have always the possibility to also give feedback. Feedback is very important for both sides. For you, because when you identify a wrong question, then an expert of these persons who are creating the engine will give you an answer back. And also for us, because when you identify a real mistake, we can use that to update the AI engine and to have a better quality of the system afterwards, which will then be available for everyone using it. So the system itself, the large language model behind, is becoming better and better. And having said that now, you will say, well, what are the training providers doing? And we also discussed this topic for training providers and for companies who are using that to train their staff, because you need also a possibility for a training provider to see how the people are doing in a training, in a course. And so we created also something where you create a training session where you have the possibility to connect a whole group of people, let's say 10 people in your training, so that you see how they are doing. So here you see we created the Whistler session, you get a code, and the person who is now in your training, he can join this session, and the trainer has then the possibility to see how this person is doing. Meaning you go to an exam now as a candidate of the training, you answer questions, and the trainer is immediately seeing the question you are answering, and also the questions you might have then, because you give an answer now, and when you go back to the session, the trainer sees now the last question you had, and he sees also how much time you spent on it. And as a result, he can answer your questions much better. So here you see the person just worked in the fundamentals, and he might have had a question on this last question, so you can immediately answer it. When you go through, that is live connected, so you always see what the person is doing, and has also an effect because you as a trainer have a better overview of the status of the person, in which areas they are moving forward. So you see here, still fundamentals of testing, but the result is now going down. He only has accuracy of 38%, and you see also again the last questions they might have. This is becoming important when you have a bigger group, because let's say you have 10 people in a training, then you see the weaknesses of the whole team. That is also interesting for companies using that, because you see when your team has, for example, spent 10, 20 hours on such a prep, you see the weaknesses of the team, and you can now personalize the learning. You don't have to give a standardized training anymore. You can say, I would like to personalize the training for my group on the weaknesses they have. So you can say the weakness of the group might be in test management. Here you see it might be in the red area. So you are just training on these things and perhaps skipping the areas where the group has no problems. And that in the field of training is, in my opinion, also a game changer, because you're moving away from a very standardized way of training to a more personalized way of training, customized way of training. And the last thing, the third thing, is the ISTQB Gen AI. Why do I put on that? Well, ISTQB started their AI syllabi in 2019. In fact, A4Q, GSQ is a part of this A4Q group, Alliance for Qualification. We started a first syllabus on AI and testing. That came out, and also in ISTQB there were other groups in Korea and other organizations who created own syllabi, and we sat together and said we need to find a solution all together. The result was in 2021 the ISTQB CTAI syllabus. You might have sit this exam. If not, you can come to our booth, we can tell you more, but that was before ChatGPT and before this time of generative AI came up. And so the decision in 2024 happened that we are going to have our own certification on generative AI. So the split between testing of AI and testing with AI has happened in ISTQB. We have a new syllabus since this year, which is just focusing on testing with AI, Gen AI. That is the newest syllabus in there. And now you will say, well, how do they do that? Because Gen AI is changing so fast, and that is exactly why I bring this as an example. Because AI is now, and here you see, by the way, where they are located, AI is now also pushing the organizations, the standard organizations, to be much faster in what they are doing. So the way we have now time to market is different, because ISTQB decided with that syllabus, and that's the first one, to have a yearly update on a syllabus. Organizations like ISO, like ISTQB, normally change their syllabi all 7 to 10 years. This one is now showing that there is something new. AI is giving us the need to really update our syllabi on a yearly basis. The time to market for content is becoming much faster due to AI. And that is also something which is a very interesting thing for you, because the newest trends need to be collected from organizations like that and need to be given back to you as the community so that you understand what is really happening on the market. These are the 3 examples, and I would like to show you now what, in our opinion, has been changed through the AI. Because there's a transformation in education and skills development happening, which is huge. Before AI, you needed a trainer, you needed a mentor to really gain knowledge and to have immediate feedback. So when you wanted to understand something, you needed to talk to a trainer, he was giving you feedback. But that is not a 24/7 thing. So you needed to register for a training, you needed to ask the mentor, and you might have had a long time to go there. With AI, with a well-trained AI, you have an immediate guidance, immediately. That is something which is new and which is given you on a high quality level. So in the past, again, the time till you get an answer is big. Now it's changing. That is the same with the learning opportunities, because in the past you had to go to a course. You had to register for a course which might be away 4, 6, 8 months. Today, you can go to a personalized learning immediately. And the learning is just showing your weaknesses so that you can train personalized, customized on these weaknesses. And that is a big change which AI is bringing. The same with the knowledge transfer. So when experts in the past created knowledge, that was a slow process. Today, with the AI engine, and that was the first time when we really saw that, these experts were putting their knowledge together, and we got a large language model with all this knowledge, something like a body of knowledge, in fact, which can then be given out to the world. And that is interesting because suddenly anyone in the world, if it's Poland, if it's India, if it's Uganda, they have the same access to the same expert knowledge, and that is a big change. So the knowledge, the expert knowledge, is now available on demand.
Yeah.
That is the same for realistic practical examples, because in the past, to have a really complex scenario, you needed complex setups. With AI, that is changing. So the possibility for us now to have essay exams marked through an AI is changing a lot, because we have now the possibility, in fact, to have the same standardized way of expert knowledge all over the world and the same way of marking all over the world with realistic practical examples. And that is the same with learning quality. So in the past, learning quality was very much depending on trainers, and there was a big difference. Today, that is changing because AI as a trainer, which is helping the trainers, is making a big difference and is putting up the quality in many areas when you have a high quality trained system. So the learning experience is getting in general better. That is also what when we are now asking the people, after they, for example, have set the practical tester, are getting as a feedback. Also, feedback is much faster today, because in the past you had to wait until you had someone to give you feedback. That is now immediate because it's provided from the AI, and that is repeatable. So that is an important point. As I said, when you go to ChatGPT, you not necessarily have the repeatable feedback. That is something which we implemented over the time into this AI engine, and that is, I think, a very big and game-changing difference. And last but not least, scaling of training meant in the past always higher costs. And that is also changing with AI, because it gives the possibility now to train big groups for a much smaller amount of money. And that enables a bigger scale of learning, which is now possible with lower costs. So what does it mean? The focus for us as an exam company is changing. In the past, we were focusing on exams. That was the focus for 20 years. Now we are working on a complete support system in cooperation with the training providers. But the center is now really the customer, and that is AI what is pushing us in that direction, because the customer is getting complete support system with the exam. You can prepare for the exam, you can learn with the exam, and you can grow your career accordingly. And that is also very important, that AI is now helping to really shape career paths, which was much, much harder in the past. So you needed a mentor in the past in many areas. where you now have possibilities with AI to access expert knowledge, which is changing, in fact, the whole approach of long-term career experience. So the testing careers will also change. And I think that is very important, because you might have heard about other speeches in the past where they say AI will totally take away the testers. The opposite is true. I'm 100% sure that the testers will be the big winners of AI. Why? Because coding can be given to an AI, but there needs to be a human at the end who understands what the AI has done, and that will be the tester. So what we will see in the next years, and I'm traveling through the whole world all the time, and that is also the feedback what I get. The testers will be the ones to check the code, to identify that this is really running well. And these will be the humans who will still sit there when the coders in many cases are already out of the game. And so testing will become the real gold standard in the whole field. This is why also this training is becoming very important, because you need to stay up to date. This is what you see with ISTQB. We suddenly have to give out syllabi every year. And that is the same for you guys. You need to stay up to date with AI. That is the demand on you. On the other side, you will stay extremely relevant in the future. The training providers, that was also a topic which was seen and told there will be no need for training providers anymore. I totally disagree. I think a personal discussion with a trainer is always very helpful. But I think the trainers will become much better with AI, because it is now easier to customize, to personalize the trainings, and that will help, in fact, to get better testers out of it. It is the same with AI, by the way, with testers. A good tester will be better with AI. That is something what is important. A bad tester will be worse with AI, because he's testing more in a bad way. So it is very important to look into the training and into the learning, and that is why this approach here is a very important one in our opinion. For us, also the examination process itself is changing a lot, because the way to prepare is different now. So you can now, with the ISTQB prep, for example, ensure the readiness for the exam much better than you was able in the past. So when you just had one sample exam you was going through, then you had the possibility and say, well, I managed that paper now for the fifth time, so I answered everything correct. That wasn't a real readiness. Now, with an unlimited amount of exams, you have the possibility to really see in the performance if you're doing good enough to be ready for the exam. And I think that is also a game-changing situation for the candidates. The career growth, I think, is an important topic in ISTQB when you see this whole round circle with all the career paths. And I think AI helps to focus clearer, because it gives the possibility of weaknesses. And with that, it gives the possibilities to become better on a faster way. So AI offers access to expert-curated content, as I told, and that globally. So when you have a big team in India, in Uganda, as I said, or in Australia, you can now train the people on the same level. It's not depending anymore on the trainer, on the knowledge of the trainer of the country. You can now ensure that that is all on the same level. Summary. Well, I think AI, and I hope I was able to show that a little bit to you, is changing the whole field. So in both areas, learning and certification. Learning, because you have a totally different way to learn now. You have a 24/7 possibility to get a response. Certification, because we have with AI the possibility to ensure that the results are the same all over the world, not only with multiple choice, but also with much more practical approaches in the examination area. And we also have the possibility to prepare better. And you have the possibility to prepare better, because the costs for such a preparation tool are very low. In comparison to have a real trainer, a real mentor with a one-to-one, you have now your real mentor with the AI for a very small amount of money, in comparison to have a real one where you pay quite a lot in the past. And I think this immediate response is also something what is changing all the situation, because you directly see what you need to improve. And the importance of practical skills is very important. As I showed you in the beginning, our survey was clearly showing practical, practical, practical. The result is now we have with AI the possibility to become much more skills oriented and move away from only knowledge-based learning to a much more skills-based learning. And last but not least, AI helps to solve problems which are there since years. The problem with the sample exams is a problem for 20 years. That was over the 20 years always the number one of the questions we received, and that is solved. So AI is very good in solving existing issues by having high quality solutions out there. The career path is the other thing, which will be much more personalized in the future, because you can identify your weaknesses and you are able to really fit into it. What is next? I think that is also, as I told you, an important one for us to look into the future. It's like a little bit like the trending topics of hype cycles. And what are the trending topics of the future? Well, I think the European AI Act is a very big topic which you all need to think about during the next months, years, because Europe is very restrictive when it comes to AI. So that will be a topic which is definitely heavily trending, as all companies need to train people. So when you look into the AI Act, they are asking that every company is really training their staff when they are using AI. As most probably everyone is using AI in the future, so everyone needs to train their staff. So that topic, very important, very trendy. And that is also a topic which we identified. So there will be the need to have quickly created trainings, and AI will help also on that way for these small badging topics. I call it badging topics because it's not a full certification like an ISTQB foundation level. It is more, I really need to understand what I do when I use AI, and I need to understand what I'm allowed and what I'm not allowed. Otherwise, my company is in risk. And that needs to be clear to everyone. This is why this European AI Act is an important topic. For us, for the schemes we are working, if it's IREP, if it's ISTQB, if it's AFQ, AI will also help a lot to change syllabus, to update syllabus. And it will help, in fact, to have much more up-to-date syllabi, because the market demand will be much more in that direction. And that is what I also said during the talk. AI will also give us the possibility to create body of knowledges. I can tell from ISTQB, we are working since many years on a body of knowledge. It was never finished because a new syllabus is coming, then it needs to be added to the body of knowledge, and it's a huge work. And they started with Excel files. That is a slow process, as you can imagine. I think with AI, that topic will be solved, like the question sample exam problem. That body of knowledge topic will be also solved very, very soon. And that is, I think, also a game changer. So topics we really worked for years are now much, much easier. Yeah, that is my view on the new era of learning with AI.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure that you have at least one question and comment, right?
Thank you. I have a question about the future, because you mentioned that the importance of testing and testers will be greater in the future. And I have a thought, because when I play with AI agents, I build something by just prompting. I can see I can build something. I can see my AI agent can automatically test itself. It just runs, either it runs tests of what it did. It can put up temporary unit testing files that also runs the tests, and I can also create or just ask to, or add a stage for an AI validator agent that can additionally validate the output. So taking this into account, why do you think the importance of testing will be even greater if we can actually have AI basically test itself?
Because you will see that all our governments will say at the end there must be a human. So the interesting fact with our practical tester is that when you do the exam, always an expert is looking over it because that's the requirement of the governments. So the European AI Act is not allowing us that the AI is marking your exam automatically. We must have a human really checking that is correct. And that will be the same for banking, for finance, for insurances, that you must have a human at the end saying, this is correct. So someone needs to sign. And which human really believes that the AI agent it created is 100% correct? So you will have a human really sitting and testing. That will be, at least what I see, the case. You will have an agent creating the code. And you can, of course, have also an agent to test, but at the end, it will be a human to really look over it. And this is where I see the testers. They will be much more specialized. They will have a higher knowledge than they might have today in many areas. But I think the tester is the gold standard at the end for everything in that area.
Thank you.
Hi, you mentioned a lot about opportunities. Let me ask some questions about challenges. You rely mostly or entirely on AI in generating questions for sample exams and, of course, answers. Do you have any validation of these questions? I mean, are these questions correct? Answers correct? Are these questions on a specific level of expertise, like too easy or too complex? So how it goes? Thank you.
Well, two questions in that. The too easy to too difficult, that is what the experts create. So what I told you, there's expert created content, and that is the same for the questions. So what we have there is that the experts were creating questions and were also saying, this is an easy question, this is a medium question, this is a hard question. So you had some level of difficulty, which we also implement into this AI engine. This engine is now knowing, okay, this is a hard one, this is an easy one, and based on that, it can also give the scores. So that is an important topic. Concerning the challenges with multiple choice questions, well, yes, we have experts creating us, let's say, 100 questions. And we have also the feedback from the customers. Both are the basis, in fact, that the large language models are understanding. This is a good question, this is a bad question. And based on that, you always are getting better. With the feedback, and this is why I said that as a very important point, the experts are always checking the feedback and putting that back into the large language model. So when we started the whole thing, it was a beta, and I would say, had some accuracy of 95%, where we said it is good enough to start. Today, I would say we have around 99% of accuracy. Of course, there is still mistakes. That will always happen. That is the same with an ICB sample exam, which has been created from humans. There's also mistakes in there. That is normal. But at the end, the quality in itself is much higher than it was before, and it's also higher than a standard which is just created from one human, because you had a bunch of experts creating it and agreeing on the same difficulty level. So you have now the same difficulty level, as I said, in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe, and that is important. In the past, it was, let's say, a professor deciding this is a easy question, but in another country, this might be a hard question. Today, we ensure that there's a standardization also in the difficulty level, and that is an outcome of what we are doing.
I have a very practical question because I'm a tech leader and I have a lot of QAs that I'm supporting their growth that are preparing for the exams now. Is the ISTQB prep already live and usable? Do you need to pay for it? And is it available for personal use, or you need to go through the, for example, SJSE or other provider of the exams to get access to the platform, or it can be also available for personal use?
We will check with SJSE so that you can go back to them, and we'll find a solution that you can get it via SJSE. It is available, so you can already run it now. We have a few thousand people already who used it. And that is, I think, the benefit. We started it, I don't know, in June this year, and we had thousands of people really starting to use it because it is a huge benefit and the amount of cost is low. Again, this is not meant as a competition to training. I think it is at the end to really see if you're ready for the exam. It is a huge, huge, huge benefit. And yes, I agree for QAs, it's perfect to have that also as a readiness test before you really go to the exam. And I'm sure via SJSI we can definitely find a solution that you get it by them.
Thank you once again. So Werner will be available for your rest of question later, right?
Okay.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm here.